Welcome back. So today is a little bit of an unexpected video. I wanted to kind of talk about like this notebook and like planning in general and all of that stuff. So let's just kind of dive directly into today's video. So I've been using notebooks for the bulk of this year. I want to touch on the Nuna notebook for sure. So just to catch everyone up to speed, this and this is what I used after I left my rings. So I did 2 full months in TNs, and here I'll even pair it with the weekly because these were the things that I used together. So I have 2 completed months in these books, and then this was my food log, and then I have 1 month in the Leuchtturm 411 book. And a lot of you may ask, why didn't I stick with this? Why did I leave this and go to this? Why did I leave this and then go to something else and not return to this if size was an issue and all that good stuff? Well, to kind of catch you guys up to speed, I was not in love with the setup of this. Just like looking at the tabs, I had tabbed out everything. Big mistake, especially like, yeah, I understand convenience, but don't do that because then you can't change anything once you lay everything down and label things and date things. But I had done this and I didn't really like the monthly layout because the boxes are really small, but the space around is just really bare and I didn't utilize enough of the space. So I didn't really like this. I didn't really like the placement of this. Then I do the same thing in all my bullet journals. So if you've ever seen any of like my plan with me's, or if you've ever seen my bullet journal spreads, you've seen these spreads quite a bit. They never change. Doesn't matter what I'm doing, they never change. I might do something special like this chronodex or this timeline, but outside of all of that, the way that I use my notebooks, that does not change. So I wasn't exactly thrilled about the setup of this and the fact that I put my trackers in the back and then I tabbed everything off with these tabs on the top. So if I wanted to close this, it would interfere with the tabs. And so I just didn't like what I did initially to this bullet journal. So it kind of turned me off in the worst way. So I was not happy that I wasn't utilizing a lot of the space in here. And so I went into a traveler's notebook, which worked out really great for me. This was probably the best thing that I used this year, aside from my day designer, because I didn't dislike that either. I think my issue really just comes with rings. I have a love-hate relationship with rings, and so yeah, we get along and then we don't get along. But I use this, and like I said, I did a flip of this last week. I used this, I finished it, which I don't have a problem with not finishing things. It's, it really stems off from what I like, and that's what contributes to me wanting to stay in something. But I finished this and I wanted to jump into something different. I really like the size of the Traveler's Notebook. I was a little intimidated about the Sterling Ink 520 page notebook that I had purchased and kind of put into my TN, and I wasn't sure if I really was ready to use it at the moment because that notebook was so expensive and I didn't want to like jump into it and then not be able to like stay in it or waste it. And then to top that off, there were a couple of other things that I really wanted to try, and the summer is going to be really busy and I wanted to just have everything in one notebook. That's it. I just wanted one notebook, like one solid book that could have my monthlies, my weeklies, and all my notes and journaling, kind of like what I did last summer. You know, when you're in a traveler's notebook, it's a very modular system, and sometimes your system ends up into like 3 or 4 notebooks, and you have all of these moving parts. And I just wanted to try something that didn't have so many moving parts. So that's why I kind of gave my TN a break and decided to try something else. When I was in my ring bound system, I was really happy with everything that I got. So I don't dislike anything that I got. I do think that there were a lot of things that I was trying to do in my ring bound system, which initially made the system bulk up. And so, yeah, over time it just got really bulky and it got hard to close because rings. But I liked this, and I often contemplate on going back to it only because it is convenient in the terms of the dates. And then I had these half sheets, which everything that I wanted to add, I could initially use a half sheet and do. And then I got the dailies with the day on 2 pages. So it has a lot of the same features as, you know, my bullet journals. Especially like being able to lay out notes and transfer them over, or having the monthly with all the events that might be happening for the month, the weekly spreads, and then like my master task list for the month instead of for each week. So yeah, I like this too. But like I said, when I started doing a lot of this kind of stuff, this does not work as great in rings as it does in, you know, journals and stuff like that. Like these tip-ins, this doesn't work as well. And so I don't know. I left this to move into notebooks so that I had the option to do all the things that I wanted to do without feeling the restrictions that rings gives. Okay, so fast forward. Those are the things that I use for, you know, the basis of this year. So I have January and February in rings, March in here, April, May in these 2 books, April and May. So not a whole lot of things that I've used this year, but enough to, you know, add a little stack. So I wanted to try out this Nuna notebook. Initially, I will say that the Nuna notebooks do not come with any bells and whistles. It's literally just a cover and the pages themselves. There's no bookmarks, there's no pen holder, there is no closure. So yes, these notebooks are beautiful. And I think one of the selling points is that they are beautiful. The covers are gorgeous. And not only is it the cover, but the design is wrapped around the entire notebook. And then the big seller is that it's bright white paper, it's stitched, and your dots are 3.5. So it's very, very small. And it's not exactly A5. It is a little bit bigger in width and height than A5, but it's still very compact and portable. So here's the thing. These notebooks have, you know, great designs and a great layout in terms of design. But there are some things that I've noticed in the last week of using the Nuna notebook that really just throws me for a loop and makes me not really enjoy this notebook as much as I might enjoy some others. Granted, these notebooks at full price are about they're about $39 and some change. And I think that they go up in price depending, but I think about $39, $40 for these notebooks is pretty steep, especially with some of the issues that you may encounter with these notebooks. Now, granted, I think that there are people who like the Nuna notebooks, but I have also been sharing my own personal experiences, and it amazes me that some of my experiences are reasons why other people are thrown off from the Nuna notebooks as well. Let me bring that discussion into topic. So why do people not like the Nuna notebook? Okay, so let's take a look at it. I'll start with the cover. So the cover is leather. It is recycled leather. It is beautiful. But what is it about this cover that I don't like? So I like to take my journals with me. Sometimes they're in my bags. Last summer, I took my Leuchtturm with me everywhere, and it was always in my bag. And when I didn't want it, I left it in a car. And I had no issues with leaving it in a car. Last summer, we were staying in Mississippi for about 6 months. So if you know, then you know it gets really, really hot in Mississippi. And it was very hot and humid yesterday. And, you know, I've never had issues with leaving notebooks and stuff in the car. But this cover does not do well to climate change. So when it's really, really hot, and I don't think that that necessarily would matter if it's in the car or not. If it's really, really hot wherever you are, the cover is going to warp. How did I get it kind of somewhat back this way? I had to sit it in a really cold room in order for it to kind of mold its way back. But the cover was warped. So all the edges had curled up. This curled up, this curled up. And it took all night for it sitting by the air conditioner, the vent in our house, in our bedroom, in order for it to kind of mold itself back into place. And even where my pen loop is, it didn't necessarily go back down. I know you probably can't tell on camera, but I'm just telling you like what happened to the initial cover. So it did mold its way back to the sides, but it didn't mold its way all the way from the top and the bottom. So the cover does warp in different like weather conditions. Like if it's really, really hot, this is definitely going to warp. Now, to some, they may look at that and they may say, oh, that's normal for normal leather products, or that's normal for notebooks to do that. I've never experienced it in any of the notebooks that I've used, so it was a new issue for me. I almost thought for a second, because it was so badly, it felt like the cover was melted, one. But I almost felt like I damaged the book just from leaving it in the car for that short amount of time, and that happened to my book. So that let me know how fragile this cover was. Two, not in this notebook necessarily, but in the demo notebook that I was testing out, I started to notice that this crease where the end paper and the cover meet was starting to rip, and it made me question whether or not this would last with, you know, excessive use and all that stuff. I'm pretty rough with my notebooks, but not to the point where I'm tearing them to shreds. This may not have been a problem for other people, but it was a problem that I was starting to notice. The other thing that I was starting to notice, because this notebook does not have pockets or anything like that, I had purchased these adhesive pockets, which I put down, and they have been having the hardest time staying down since putting them in. And it's not like the adhesive on the back of the pockets are weak. It's very strong adhesive because I tested on something else. But it just does not stick to the kind of paper that is in this notebook. So it got to a point where, and like even, I know you guys can't see it, but even like where the edges are, it's still trying to come up. But for the moment, it's just staying in place. So I'm hoping that it just stays in place. But it got so bad to the point that when my cover curled up yesterday, this whole corner like just came off. And I tried double-sided tape first. That didn't work. and ultimately ended up stapling this little pocket down. I didn't take it off because if I would have took it off, it would have took some of the paint off with it. So that was another reason why I didn't take the pocket off, and I just decided to staple it down. So yeah, things don't stick as great. I haven't had issues with stickers, but like things that you might want to add, like a adhesive pocket or even tabs. And I'm not even sure if it's just these tabs or is it all kinds of tabs. These ones have had troubles, or the things that I'm using have had trouble staying down on the paper. So I have these Midori, backtrack for a second. These little stickers had no issues peeling up. However, like some of the corners didn't want to stay down on this paper, but I haven't had any issues since like flattening them out by just adding a little bit of heat. So I don't know. I kind of feel like this wants to come up, but I'm not gonna mess with it. These kind of stickers have had no issues, but my tabs. So my tabs are the Midori like tabs. I don't know if you can see. Look, they're like the Midori tabs. And I'm using these same tabs on my pocket, or I'm sorry, not pocket, on my weekly tan insert. So same tabs here. I have had no issues with them on this paper. The tabs stay down, they stay in place, they don't move, they don't do any of that sort of thing. So it was really puzzling to me that the first set of tabs that I put down, they just didn't want to stick. I immediately noticed that when I was flipping through, the tabs started coming up, and I have other tabs, but they're kind of wide. So I didn't want to put wide tabs on this book. I wanted to keep it as, you know, kind of slim and like discreet as possible, especially with like the tabs and things, because I just wanted the cover to be the focal point of, you know, like what I wanted to see. Tabs have had such a hard time staying in place. I had resorted at one point using double-sided tape, but that didn't want to stay down either. So I ended up putting a new set on here, and yeah, they still want to come up every now and again, but so far they are staying down because I gradually just run my hands and push them down from time to time. So those are some of the things that have turned me off with this notebook. Another thing that is turning me off with this notebook, like I said, I was scared that I was going to bleed through the paper here when I did the initial setup for this week. It didn't bleed through, but some of my other markers that I like to use, they do bleed through. So that worries me that I'm going to be stuck with using just one particular kind of marker, or I'm going to have to watch what markers that I use. Outside of that, I haven't had issues with the paper necessarily. I think this is the better part of the notebook, but I'm not really happy in this notebook. I thought that because it was this bright white paper, there's 256 pages, it was this beautiful cover, that I was gonna love this notebook. But what I've just come to realize is that I didn't like adding this pocket, and then like the stuff didn't want to stay down, and then I had to staple it, and you know, it just became like an eyesore. It didn't come with a closure, so I had to poke holes and make one in order for this notebook to stay closed. And although you can't see on this notebook, I will say that the design itself does not stay long term, at least in the corners. So on this notebook, when I was testing it out and I was opening it up and you know, doing this, I noticed that the paint was starting to come off right here in the corners. Hopefully my camera is picking it up. So paint was coming off right there and right along there. And you can't see it so much where it's black. So I think that's why you can't see it on this particular notebook, because it is just, you know, like black with silver splotch or whatever you want to call that. But where you have these lines, you definitely can see it. And like I said, when I was opening this up, you can see here where the cover also is trying to rip off, and that was just from me opening it up and doing that just a little bit, because the book does not stay open otherwise. And you can kind of see it also in the back here. And then when I did add a closure to this, when I was testing out closures, and I was trying to get the tape that I was using to conceal the holes, I was trying to get that to stay, but it wouldn't stay. And I ended up peeling it off, and it took off part of the black paper. So that's why you see where I covered it with black duct tape. But yeah, that was the only issues that I had. And then like I said, a lot of the markers you can't really use. They look nice on the paper, but some of them, like the Ohuhu markers, regular like Sharpie, the Sharpie S notes, they bleed through. Even stamp markers, they bleed through. But some of the mild liners, they do not. So yeah, I like these notebooks in terms of the format and in terms of like they're like the way that they look, but I don't think these are suitable for bullet journals. I just don't think. I think that if you don't use pockets, like if your concern is only the paper, then maybe you can get away with this. For me, I like to have closures for my notebooks because I do take them with me places. I also like to put tabs onto my planners because it just makes it easier to find certain sections or to tab off months. I also like to have a bookmark. I ended up adding a like little charm bookmark that I got from Barnes and Nobles. I own quite a bit of these and was saying that I wasn't using them, so I ended up adding one. So that isn't a problem necessarily, but it would be nice to have a built-in one. But all in all, regardless of how the book looks, regardless of how my spreads look, if you are not enjoying the notebook in itself, this will mean nothing, because the cover is really what's throwing it off for me. And then the fact that so many issues with just the build of the cover, the build of the notebook, is what's bothering me. It's making me not even want to, finish it. And I almost feel kind of wasteful because, like I said, I started this and we're like 7 to 8 days into June, and I'm already like, no, this isn't gonna work. But I'm already feeling like, despite all these beautiful aspects of this notebook, I'm just not in love. So yeah, I wanted to kind of touch bases on that and just kind of give my 2 cents about what I think about the Nuna notebooks. So would I go back to the Nuna notebook? I don't know. It's a hard I don't know. Because I like the grid and I like the designs of the covers, but there are some things that I would definitely do different. For starters, maybe not add any tabs at all. Maybe not even add any adhesive pockets. But these are things that I like in my notebooks. So it does make me sad that I wouldn't be able to have these things that I really enjoy having in my notebooks. I wish that I wish that there were other brands out there that also have this really tiny grid on this like really, really like bright paper, because most companies only make 5 millimeter grid spacing on bullet journals. So this is really unique that the spacing is so tiny, because naturally I write kind of tiny anyway. And so I love it, but other people maybe not so much. So what am I doing moving forward? So I pulled out some things. I've debated on whether or not I want to go into a field notes size TN, because like I said, the summer months are kind of busy, and I took so much time to set up my Nuna notebook, and I'm not enjoying it as much. I'm not vibing with it. There are a lot of issues that I'm personally having, which is contributing to my general use with the notebook. So I thought maybe I'd just go into something smaller that would be easier to set up if I still want a bullet journal, because, you know, it takes a lot of time and effort to set up the bigger notebooks. I thought about maybe revisiting my rings for the summer, just because we're already 7 to 8 days into June, and I wouldn't have to do much except for auto-fill things. I wouldn't have to draw out anything, and this makes life a little bit easier due to the fact that everything is already ready to go. So I thought about this. I also have my TN Weekly. All I would have to do is fill this out and just redo my daily pages. The only issue that I have with this one is there's only a week per page, and this month is it's a little busy, like I said, and I have been trying to combat the whole tracking situation, like weekly tracking and things like that. So I don't know, because in my mind, I'm just like, I would love to have like a week and then notes, so that I wouldn't have to continuously do this, because eventually I'm going to have to print more. And, you know, I just kind of want to get up and go. I don't want to have to, you know, add a lot of extra stuff. So I thought about this too, but then also at the same time, it's like, I just really want to use one book. I'm thinking about maybe redoing this setup altogether. I don't know. I was thinking about maybe if I moved out of this TN and back into the red one and just restrung it so that the strings are a little bit thinner, and then maybe I could accommodate the sterling ink and just do my months and weeks and stuff in here, since there are 520 pages. I thought about it. I'm still thinking about it, and I was just like, I'd have this extra book. There are a lot of personal decisions, and whatever decision I choose to make will be for the betterment of my sanity, if anything. I know some of you like my TN era, some of you like my bullet journal era, some of you like my ring bound era. But for me personally, it's just a matter of like what I like. It's obviously really important to me that I find something that I enjoy, or that I'm using things that I enjoy, because I do document personal things in my planners and in my journals, and they become, you know, extra things that don't necessarily, they aren't necessarily hobbies, but more of like things I need to function. Like, I rely on my journals and my planners so much that is almost saddening that when I don't enjoy something, I'm stuck between like, what do I want to use, and all this stuff, because now it just feels like I'm wasting. And then, you know, you get the comments on YouTube about planner hopping and switching and all this BS, and I'm just like, why can't we just use things that we want to use and make changes where we need to make changes? Why does everything have to be so judgmental? Like, just figure your own shit out and do what is best for you. But you know how people are, they gotta make judgment on that, especially people who watch you and feel like you're just planner hopping all the time. But yeah, I know there are people who do planner hop, but you know, to each his own. Right now, it's not so much as to what I want to use. It's just like what I'm vibing with and what's going to be easiest for me right now to capture all the things that I want to capture in terms of like my plans, my journaling, my this, my that. I have set up another journal that I'm going to use to kind of move all the things that I was doing in my TNs sort of somewhat out, but I still want to be able to capture fun memories in my planners as well, like how I was able to do that in this one, like with Mother's Day and stuff like that. I still want to be able to do some of this kind of stuff in my planners. It just won't be the in-depth journaling that I really crave right now. It won't be that, but I do want to have some sort of fun in my notebooks if I'm using notebooks. Also, ring bound systems too, because when I was using rings in Germany, I was able to capture a lot of, really good memories. So I'm thinking about restringing some of these TNs. I have a B6 TN that has a cheaper notebook, but has a whole lot of pages, and I would literally only need that book for everything. I would never need to move out of it ever again. I don't know if I want to necessarily go the route of setting that up, but it's something that is there if I want to do that. Or if I want to stay in standard, I can definitely stay in standard. I was thinking of maybe restringing, if not the red one, at least this one to accommodate, to accommodate, some of the things that I want, because right now it has only 4 strings. If not, then I was thinking maybe I could restring this one to accommodate the Sterling ink notebook a lot better. And then, yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence about this because this got bulky when I realized that I needed 3 notebooks at least. Well, I guess with the Sterling ink notebook, I wouldn't need that many, but I at least needed my weekly book. And yeah, that was important to me, but it got a little bulky, and it was getting bulky, especially with all the things I was adding. So, yeah, which is another reason why I just was like, let me just try out, a single notebook. And then I did pull this one out. This is a Vivid Scribbles dot grid journal. It doesn't have 256 pages, but there are 200 pages. I do have Tomoe River paper notebooks that have 400 pages, and they have the original Tomoe River paper before all the issues that happened with Tomoe River paper. I have 2 of them. They're in blank though, and I'm just like, do I want to sit down and fumble with a guide trying to draw out spreads right now? I really don't. I really just don't want to carry a guide to line everything up. But I do have those if I want to use them. They have hardcovers and they have elastic bands. Right now, I go to the dot grid because it's easy, and yeah. But I do have this. So yeah, has a lot of the things that I'm looking for when it comes to bullet journal. Like, it has an elastic closure, a pen loop, and a pocket. So none of that stuff I would have to add like I did with the Nuna. And I also have a B6 sequins. So I just started shopping my stash. I just started going through my stash and seeing what it is that I have. Like I said, right now, I don't know if I necessarily want to set up a brand new, bigger bullet journal, only because it took quite a while to set up the Nuna notebook. It just took time to set this up. And I would be a little concerned about transferring some of the spreads, only because they may not fit in the 5mm grid in those other notebooks, but they fit in these new notebooks because the grid is so small. So I don't know. There are a lot of decisions there, and I also like that I really can use a week on one page here because there's so much space. Like I said, there's just so much space. And yeah, I like the fact that I can fit 2 days on a single page opposed to how I would sometimes use a whole page to do a day. I can fit more days on a page in the Nuna notebooks because the grid is so small. Even with stickers, I still get a whole lot of space. So that is my little update about the Nuna notebook and about my bullet journal. Right now, I'm leaning between 3 things. I'm leaning between whether or not I should set up my field notes and just give like planning a break and just use something much more smaller and just, compact, or should I just go back into rings and just do rings because since I'm already using a journal, I can do all my documentation in that and just use my rings for planning out stuff that is happening this summer. Or do I sit down and take the time to set up one of these? Like I have 2 more dot grid. I have 3 dot grid notebooks that I could set up, but I have a whole lot of TN inserts that I could also set up. So like, what do I do? Like, do I set up another bullet journal and try to do that? And it's a mystery because honestly, I can't even really tell you. I don't know myself. I'm kind of disappointed in the Nuna notebooks. I think that they are really beautiful, but I don't think, me personally, this notebook is for me. I would have loved to have loved this notebook, but there are just too many things that I like to have in my notebooks that is not working out in this notebook at all. Yeah, and that is a big no for me. So you guys let me know what you think. I thank you so much for taking time to just sit and listen. If you have any suggestions, I would love to hear them. I'm always open to suggestions. What do you think? Of course, I'm always going to go with what I feel is best, but I would love to hear what other people also think as well. So yeah, definitely be sure to leave those comments down below if you have comments to make. And yeah, be sure to like the video. It definitely helps get the video out there. It pushes it towards the algorithm. And yeah, so maybe there's someone else feeling exactly how I'm feeling and we need to have these talks together. So push the video out into the algorithm. Make sure you like it if you like it, and comment, interact with me. I love to hear what you guys think. So yeah, that's all that I have for today, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, loves.